Our Bible text is Luke 6, verse 36. Therefore be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. So here we have Jesus, and it's something very similar to the Sermon on the Mount as we have it in Matthew 5 to 7. Yeah, in Luke it says that Jesus came to a level place, and this is Jesus still part of his Galilean ministry. And that's how Luke describes it in chapter 4, verses 14 to 9, verse 50. Because after that, he will describe Jesus' journey towards Jerusalem. It says that Jesus went up to a mountain to pray. He was praying there the whole night. And then, of course, he was in intimate union with his Father because he was about to make important decisions. Because after this, he called his disciples to him, and then he appointed the 12 apostles. And then it says Jesus came to a level place. So this is also called the Sermon on the Plain. And Jesus initially, he healed many people there. And then he started talking to the crowds. And he says there were people from Jerusalem, Judea, Tyre and Sidon, presumably also people from Galilee. They gathered around Jesus. And now Jesus gives his teaching. Very similar to what we find in Matthew 5. Because Jesus first starts with the Beatitudes. Blessed are you poor, etc. And then we come to our immediate textual unit. And that is love your enemy, or we can also say it, emulating the Father's mercy. That's from chapter 6, verses 27 to 38. Because Jesus is now setting out his vision of how his followers should live, their character traits, the way they should behave. Before this, he was hounded. Him and his disciples, they were hounded by the scribes and the Pharisees. Because I asked him, why do you heal on the Sabbath? Why do you not fast? Why do you disciples pluck grain, etc., and do things on the Sabbath they're not supposed to be doing, etc., etc.? So in this Sermon on the Plain, or at the level place, Jesus is now giving an alternative vision. There's the scribes and the Pharisees, how they see things. Now Jesus says, if you want to be my follower, this is how you must see things. This is the values you live by. So Jesus gives this alternative vision. In addition to that, Jesus also describes why his disciples must live like this. What's the fundamental reason that they must do things different to the scribes and Pharisees? We come now to a second stage in the sermon. Because if we start there, we read from verse 27. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. That's part of that alternative vision that Jesus brings. But I say to you, love your enemies. Jesus, in describing his alternative vision, he's setting boundaries of who belongs to his people, his followers. But it's also a boundary without a boundary, because God's people must even look beyond, like followers of Jesus. Love your enemies, etc. So Jesus is drawing a boundary, but without a boundary. Because our love, our concern must even extend beyond what's our in-group. In other words, those who form part of our group. We must also reach out to enemies, those outside of our group. And in this textual unit, there are three complementary behaviors that Jesus describes. These are the new conditions of existence in his community. It's love your enemies, which is spoken of repeatedly. Do good. That word do, in a way, always comes across here in a way. It's also do good. It means to bless your enemies, pray for your enemies. It's to act non-violently. In other words, not to retaliate against your enemies. And also give and lend, even your enemies. Those are the things that you must do. So in the ancient world, there was also something called, even today, there's something called balanced reciprocity. Balanced reciprocity means I do something for you, then there's the expectation you must do something for me. Right? I scratch your back, you must scratch my back. I do something to you, you are indebted and obligated to do something for me in return of equal value, of equal importance. That was the general expectation. It's called balanced reciprocity. And Jesus now rejects that. He said, that's not how you must live as my followers. Don't give something where the other person is indebted to you or you expect a repayment of sorts in any way. Because Jesus also, as part of this idea of love your enemy, he describes how you love your enemy. Bless those who curse you and pray for those who spitefully use you. To him who strikes you on the one cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And then Jesus also adds the golden rule there, as we note. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. So Jesus says here, do this for your enemies. Bless, pray. People take your stuff, let them have it, etc. Now, Jesus describes those who do not belong to his community. In other words, those who exercise balanced reciprocity. Jesus describes them as the sinners. He says, let's go to verse 32. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. In other words, the sinners, they do balanced reciprocity. They give with expectation, obligation for the other person to give back. Then Jesus carries on, and if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive back, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. So, Jesus says, those are the sinners. Now, Jesus, if we go to verse 35 and 36, he summarizes his teaching. This is the values you live by as my followers. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the unthankful and evil. So why must you exercise this? Jesus is actually explaining or setting out this ideal or value of what is known as ideal benefaction. Ideal benefaction means you give expecting nothing in return. And what's the reason for that? He says there, your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. So in other words, Jesus is describing those people won't reward you, but your Father in heaven will reward you. And our Father in heaven, he's the greatest benefactor of all, the greatest rewarder that there can ever be. But also, you will be called sons of the Most High. In other words, you are children of God. That's what children of God behave. The children have the character traits of their parents. In a similar way, children of God must show the character traits of our Heavenly Father. You will be called sons of the Most High. That's the reason why you do this. Your Father will reward you. And also, secondly, you will be called sons of the Most High. But building on that and related to that is our Bible text. Therefore, be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. So, in other words, emulate the nature of God. Because you are children of God. And the nature of God is merciful. If you go to the previous verse, it says, for he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Because God bestows all these benefits on all people. He gives them life, existence, etc. But they behave like enemies of God. Some do. They are unthankful and they are evil. They act like enemies of God. Even Besides that, God is still their creator. He still gives them life and existence. That's the nature we must emulate, God's nature. God, the Bible text says, therefore be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. God gives without getting anything in return, like he said, from those people who are unthankful and evil. In a similar way, his children must emulate his example. Forget about balanced reciprocity. When you do something, don't make people indebted to you, that there's an obligation they must give you. There must be no, give freely with no expectation, because that's the Father's nature. In a similar way, God's people must behave in the same way. Jesus goes on in terms of how to relate to your enemy. And he says, do not judge. In other words, do not judge also on who should benefit from your giving, right? He also says they do not condemn. Forgive. Forgive also in the sense of it means to release. Release them from debt. Release them from obligation. That they don't owe you anything. And also give them. Give people. Give freely. And Jesus also describes then that God will reward you in a way that's just abundant generosity. He goes to example of people in the marketplace. If we go to verse 38, give and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. So, like if you go to a market and you hold up your clothing here, and they will pour in things there and shake it, make it flat and pours over. It's like generous, it's abundant. That's the same way God will reward you generously. So finally, it's Jesus gives a new vision of how his people, his disciples should live, how they relate to others, even to enemies. And it's like I said, he's drawing a boundary, but without a boundary. It's love your enemies. It's do good. If we look at that summary again, there are those three complementary behaviors of love your enemies, to do good, which includes to bless and pray for your enemies and not to respond with violence. It's to give, to lend, to help. Also, rejecting balanced reciprocity. In other words, you give without expecting anything in return. You give freely. Because why? Because number one, God will reward you generously. The reward will not come from those who benefit from your kindness. It's God who will reward you. And secondly, it's because you will be called sons of the Most High. You must, and the children emulate the nature of their father. And it specifically says in our Bible text, God is merciful. So if you are children of God, in a similar way, also act with mercy. Extend kindness and goodness to others, even your enemies, expecting nothing in return.